We return for the final practical demonstration, task number 6, which involves the lift of a 1-ton electric motor onto its 800 mm high base plate. For purposes of demonstration, the method we shall be using will include the use of a turfer and snatch blocks. The task begins by planning what must be done, how best to do it, and looking at problem areas. Examine and inspect all equipment. Next, all necessary equipment is brought to the worksite, where it is checked to make sure that everything is there. A suitable ladder is used to take and attach the support sling to the beam. Note that a fellow worker supports the ladder and that the worker on the ladder secures himself with a safety belt. The motor's center point is determined as closely as possible, and 2 sling supports are fixed to the beam approximately 500 mm on either side of this center position. Next, the main sling is hauled up and attached by a suitable shackle to one of the support slings. To the other support, a snatch block is attached. The main sling is now fed onto the upper snatch block, which is then closed off. The sling has now formed a loop, which is fed down to the load, at which time a second snatch block is attached to the bottom of this loop. The second snatch block is then attached to the motor's lifting eye. Next, a support sling is attached to the upright column and secured with a shackle. To this support sling, a third snatch block is attached. The main sling end is now woven through the third snatch block, after which the slack in the main sling is taken up. We turn our attention now to the anchoring of the turfer, which is, in our demonstration, made to 3 sturdy stakes that have been well hammered into the ground, spaced about 1 meter apart. The anchor pegs have been securely lashed together, as you learned in program number 2 of this series. A support sling is attached to the front anchor and secured with a shackle. The turfer is then attached by its anchoring belt to this shackle. Next, the turfer's rope is fed through and the hooked end attached to the eye of the main sling. Thereafter, all the slack is taken up on the turfer and the rope locking lever set to the locked position. A check is now made to see that the sling and snatch block on the beam are in position. Next, all slack is taken up in the turfer rope until all the lifting ropes are in tension. A final check is now made to see that all contact areas are well in position and that all connections are safe and secure. The anchor points are also checked to make sure that they're firm. Now, lifting can begin by operating the turfer. The load is guided as it lifts clear off the ground and is raised to the required height for the pedestal to be placed beneath it. The workers make sure that they keep their hands and feet well clear from under the load. All lifting movement is then stopped whilst the pedestal is positioned beneath the motor, whereupon the motor is guided as it is next lowered to seat squarely upon the pedestal. A final check is made to see that the motor is correctly positioned. Thereafter, the lifting equipment can be removed. This brings us to the end of the series. During this series, you have been shown important factors concerning planning, selection of equipment, and typical methods used in lifting and moving of loads. The techniques or methods demonstrated are by no means the only methods. However, by following the general procedures that you have learned and by observing the proper safety standards, no matter what task you have to do, the risk of an accident and damage to property will be minimized.